Coming from the Caveman Studios in Buffalo, New York. Welcome to Caveman Corner with your host, Jeff.
Captain Caveman!
Thanks.
Click subscribe and the bell. Do it now!
Hello, Dr. Krol. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? It's been a long time since I've been on here. It hasn't been a long time since I've seen you, but a long time since I've been on here.
I know we've been hanging out, doing it, keeping everything together for a long time. If you guys are watching on Facebook or any of the other things, please make sure to share it so everyone can see. That helps us grow the podcast a lot. And always click subscribe to whatever you're watching on. So help me and Dr. Krol a lot.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So all Ray, it sounds like you're gonna get is the intro. So at least I got Ray doing intros.
Yeah, Ray doesn't like coming on when I'm on.
Yeah, you're too boring. He doesn't like policemen, and he doesn't like you for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I wouldn't like me either if I was him, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, here he is. Here he is.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry about that.
I still have my busted thumb from Ray's gi.
Sorry about that.
Ray's 8
That
o'clock.
wasn't your fault. It was my fault. We were telling people at jiu-jitsu the other day, Ray, that you busted my thumb down at the docks because I owed somebody money. I think that's a much better story than me just not knowing what I'm doing with my grips.
I too believe that. I believe that is the best way to go about saying that, because your grip should be good by now. You're a blue belt. You're my blue belt.
I know, and that's like, I was the first color promotion for under you.
You were definitely
Man.
first color promotion, and so far you're my only blue belt. Really, you're Tiger's only blue belt.
Yeah, all right.
Yep.
Well, your white belts keep dropping off. They keep falling into the ocean.
Yeah, well, they probably end up in mixed vans. So
Maybe. I don't know where you get that from. I worked with Mick the other day. He's like one of the nicest guys in the world.
I know he's so nice, but he's really quiet. And so, do you know the story when Mick first started at the gym?
No, but I have a feeling that there's some Buffalo Bill stuff behind this.
No. Anyways, he just came in and he just watched class. He didn't do anything. So I was like, man, I thought he was a homeless guy. So then he kept coming back a couple of times. I was always really nice to him. And one time I gave him cookies. Butch's wife made cookies. I was like, well, I'll check out the cookies home, and all these donuts, because we had a party for the kids or some promotion or something. I forgot what it was now. And he took that.
Wasn't it Ilfrey's promotion?
No, it was before that, because he was already at the gym when Ilfrey got promoted. So I think it was a kids belt promotion. When the kids got their gray belts, I can't remember for sure. But anyways, he came in the next day and then he signed up. So then he was a member after that. That's all. Right, and some cookies.
And because he's quiet, he murders people in a van.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but I always have little stories in my head of everybody, and he was the murderer in the van. So
I know you're tough to jump in on midstream. It takes a while. It's like I heard that one time watching people that watch the Jim Rome show, that it takes about 2 weeks to get into the lingo and what he talks about. So you're the same way. It takes you a while.
Yeah.
You jump into your classes and you're hearing stories about people, and it you have no idea who these people are. And you're mispronouncing names. For a while, you were not pronouncing the L in Ilfrey. It was just
not
Ifrey.
Names at all. I called Josh Joe for 6 months, and Josh. I had them confused in my head, and I would always get their names wrong.
Well, I mean, blue belts, kind of shortish.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, I suppose. I'm terrible with names. I can tell you almost every muscle and bone in the body. I can't tell you names, so I can't.
I get Jared right every time, because he's not the Jared from the Subway commercial.
No, not at all. Jared would smash the Jared from the Subway commercial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I just wanted to touch on what we've been doing since COVID times. COVID kind of shut me down. We were still doing privates, so we were allowed to do privates under your medical license. So a lot of my students still do privates with me and you were still able to operate, but we were shut down for a very long time. How did COVID affect you?
It actually didn't affect me too much, because even the very initial shutdown under Governor Cuomo, said nothing about medical facilities shutting down. All medical facilities could still operate. It didn't say anything about that. A lot of places, what they did was they shut down outpatient facilities because they weren't able to go into the hospitals. So when you did see medical shutdowns, it was because of that. It wasn't a direct shutdown by the governor. So what I had happen was I was always treating one-on-one anyway, so I didn't have to change anything I was doing. So people came in, there was only just me and the other person, so it was just wearing the masks and going about that. And I was actually able to cut out some things that weren't really profitable for the business, like group exercise wasn't doing very well for the business. So that was cut out automatically anyway. And yeah, really nothing changed. So actually, I did a little bit better through COVID because I was able to get people from other places that weren't able to operate because they didn't have a medical license.
That's pretty good. And then like you helped me a little bit, and then that helped me pay you too, doing those
Right.
privates. So it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, and my
I didn't want
landlord
to
at the
touch.
time was cool. He was cool
Yeah,
about it. Like the landlord, he dropped rent some. He was cool. We're not there at that spot anymore, but it was, he was always fine. He was never a jerk about it.
that's good because a lot of landlords got real hosed, and a lot of tenants got hosed too. It was a very tough time. The government
Yeah, and
didn't.
I was able to operate, so I didn't want to shaft the guy, but I wasn't able to operate at generally full capacity. So, you know, it all worked out.
Yeah. And then now we're at 1333 Stroud Avenue, right in the Niagara Climbing Center. We're both there.
Yeah, it's in the Wurlitzer Common, which is not the same as the Wurlitzer Building where Platters is. It's not the same building. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I know right where that is." I'm like, "No, you don't know right where that is." So then I give them the instructions. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's not where I was thinking." So, do
Yeah.
you know that there's actually a third tattoo parlor in there now?
Yes, the guy lives in his van and he
Yeah,
has a
with
dog
the
and he
solar
parks
panels
right
on the
outside
roof.
my building.
Yeah, the solar panels on the roof. Yeah, I was like, yeah, if he's got solar panels on the roof, he's living in that thing.
Yeah, and he's got an awesome dog. It's got two different colored eyes. It's a super cool dog.
Yeah, I
The
heard
guy's super
all
nice.
your kids' class like accosting that dog when they came out.
Yeah, I might get a tattoo for him.
Nice.
I want to get integrity on my chest.
All right, just don't close the business down,
Yeah, we're closed in 2 weeks. I'm getting a tattoo.
and don't spell it wrong.
Yeah. I can get out.
You'll be just like that no regrets tattoo that
Oh,
always pops
man.
up online.
Hey, Doc, I got a question for you.
Sure, what's up?
Now, do you think that with the COVID, do you think the government overreacted with it? Because I'm just getting over the COVID just
So, yeah, how far do we want to go down this rabbit hole? So, really the reality is if you look at it, it was an impossible situation for everybody. It was no, you didn't want to be anywhere near the decision maker of that because you had people on one side saying, "Hey, shut everything down." You have people on the other side saying, "Just leave everything open, let everybody get sick, and we'll all deal with this just like the flu." As usual, the answer is kind of in the middle. I think where the biggest mistake was, and I think it was well intentioned, was that we said, "Okay, well, not we, I didn't say it, but they said, okay, shut down everything but hospitals, right?" And that's kind of what we did. And what we found out, and what we in the medical profession knew, and people running the hospitals know, is that hospitals are not self-sustaining, self-sufficient entities. Hospitals rely on the entire community to operate. So the hospitals were open, everything shut down, and the hospital people were like, "Hey, wait a minute, we need supplies from this vendor here. We have to hire all these people to bring them in, but we don't have simple things like access cards." You don't think about that, but access cards aren't made by the hospital; they're made by a third party, which is now shut down. So then that third party had to open up, and then the third party says, "Hey, we need these supplies from this, tertiary entity." So now they have to open up, but it's all a 2, 3 week, 4 week delay. And that's where things really got screwed up. Instead of saying, what does the hospital need to survive? Keep those chains open. So it was, yes, it was a bit of a knee jerk overreaction, but again, it was an impossible situation. So, it's not really fair to say, well, this person did that and this person did that and they're all bad people. I think everything was well intentioned. It's just, wasn't well thought out, which is a lot of things. People just jump into things and then, oh yeah, we got to deal with these reactions afterwards. And unfortunately, it probably cost people lives. It wasn't intentional. It was just the way it is. So
Yeah, unfortunately, the people that make the decisions aren't usually the people that have to deal with the decisions. They're not on the ground level of knowing exactly what everyone needs to make what they want done happen, and then they're still the ones making the rules. So that's what happens.
Yeah, and they're not the ones dealing with the response of that at the ground level. So yeah, it's again, it was an impossible situation for anybody. So I think most of the things were well intentioned, and you saw all around the country very different responses to it, and we kind of all ended up in the same place. So Florida was very open, New York was very closed, and we all kind of ended up in the same place in terms of general death rate and everything that kind of went on. So I don't know if there was a right answer to the situation. Again, if we went back in time, I don't think people would have handled it any differently than they did. So
I hope they would, but they probably wouldn't.
no, they wouldn't have. It would have just went the same. It would just been knee jerk, shut everything down except hospitals, and then the trickle effect of things reopening up because the hospitals need it.
Mm-hmm.
So
thank God I'm in Niagara County.
What's that?
Thank God I'm in Niagara County.
Yes. Absolutely.
There's a lot more to be said about this topic, but I'm not sure that this is the right place for it. We'll definitely get ourselves shut down and canceled.
Yeah, it's still really touchy. There are a lot of things we can talk about. Maybe we can revisit this if we decide we're getting saucy later.
Yeah, definitely. Let's jump into
Ray is definitely the one to toss a grenade into the room and blow everything up.
Yeah, right off the jump, he did that.
Ray, actually, have you ever been on when I've been on?
No.
Yeah, Jeff was saying that you don't like police officers or me. I don't know why.
I like doctors. You're a good guy.
Yeah, well, in small doses, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Small doses.
What about policemen, Ray? You don't like them?
Police are okay, but except the NYPD. I don't like the NYPD.
All right.
Are you in New Jersey or are you in Western New York right now?
I'm Western New York.
Okay, cool.
He's got COVID right now. He's stuck home.
Yeah. Are you? You'll be all right.
He didn't die.
It's like my third time getting it.
Anyways, I wanted to jump back into actually what I brought you on here for, your area expertise. I had you put together a warm-up program for our jiu-jitsu program. So when we do jiu-jitsu, we do the Dr. Krol approved warm-ups, and my injury rate has come way down. I was going to say you started an injury prevention program for us, but you don't like the terminology of that. So we'll let you get into that in 1 second because I know you're ready to go, But I wanted to take my personal time and thank you and let everyone that does the integrity warm-up that doesn't know, like Dr. Krol made this warm-up. We're doing it especially for the muscles that we use in jiu-jitsu and to try and keep our body warmed up for what we're going to do in jiu-jitsu. So go ahead.
Can I say something about that, Jeff?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea because a lot of gyms don't have a proper warm-up.
No, I never had, like, everyone's like, oh, all right, go warm up for 2 minutes. That's how the warm-up was always at, like, every gym I ever did. Or it was a bunch of warm-ups that were, like, sport-specific, which I actually put into our warm-up, too. I added the rolls and all that stuff because I think developing that's a different topic. Let's get Dr. Krol into his area of expertise right now. That's why I got that expert.
No, so it's kind of exactly how it should go. I presented a warm-up plan to you. You came to me and said, hey, come up with a warm-up. And I presented it to you, taught it to you, and then you tweaked it for what you need. And that's kind of how it should go. These are overlapping fields of expertise. I'm not an expert in your field. So, I'm like, okay, here's what we need for our warm-up. Here's the good warm-up start. And then you said, okay, let's add this, let's add this, let's add this. You added on the neck endurance stuff. Mm-hmm. It's cool. Perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You change the order of certain things. You change the way I did things just a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. That's exactly what you should do. You tweak it for what you need and what your students need and what you need personally. So, yeah, I think that's really what should happen at most gyms. And to be quite honest with you, it takes 4 to 5 minutes to do, and it gets everybody warmed up and it lowers your injury rate, which as a business owner is good for you because it keeps people coming in. And that's really what you want. You don't want people out for 6, 7, 8 months. You don't want people not feeling good during training. Any combat or contact sport there's going to be injuries. You cannot avoid them, which is why I don't like the term injury prevention. Because if I were to say injury prevention, what do you two think about when you hear injury prevention? If I was to say, okay,
All right.
Ray, Jeff, you guys are going to put your kids into a program that I'm going to run over the summer. It's an injury prevention program. What do you guys think of?
Cutting corners with training techniques, I guess, like no contact or.
Well, let me change the question. What do you guys think of when school rolls back around in September and in November or October one of your kids tweaks their ankle? What do you think of my injury prevention program then?
I'm like, you didn't prevent anything. He's
Yeah.
It
hurt.
sucks, right? Your injury prevention
Right.
program stinks. It's terrible. We cannot prevent injuries. Look at the NFL. They have the very best training people. I mean, the professional soccer leagues in Europe have the very best training staffs, and they don't prevent injuries. Those guys get injured all the time. And it's not just from a crazy hit they take in the field. They get injured sometimes in practice. So you can't prevent injuries. So the better way to putting it would be injury risk reduction. That's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to lower risk. It's just like anything else. Risk is essentially, if you do this activity, this outcome may happen. So you can never smoke and still get lung cancer. Just if you smoke, your risk goes up. So if you don't do a proper warm up, if you don't take care of your body, if you don't do the maintenance, your risk of injury goes up. But there's a lot of people out there that can still never warm up, never take care of their bodies, and they're never injured. It's incredible. And, you know, Professor Jeff, I'm going to give you a lot of credit here. This is one area you've grown tremendously. It's one of the biggest professional growths I've seen in you in a long time. Is that one thing you are is unusually durable. I mean, you are able to train 6, 7 days a week hard if you need to. That's not usual. That is unusual durability. And years ago, you were like, this is how you do it. You have to train this hard if you want to do this. It's just train hard and don't be a baby about it. And you didn't care about the attrition and the bodies left behind. You didn't care about that because it's like, well, if you can't handle the attrition, then you're not tough enough to do this. And you've really grown past that where you're saying, hey, we have to train at the right level. We have to train the right way. You have to take time off when you need to. So you've become a lot better of not trying to stuff everybody into your mold because your mold is unusual, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I've never
So,
felt anything different. I don't know. Like, I never used to even warm up. I just jump on the mat and I train like 8 hours and then I go home. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
He's just a
Yeah. And
caveman.
then what's that?
He's just a caveman.
Yeah, it's this unusual durability. And it's a great thing. You lean into it because it's an advantage that you have. But most people don't have that. Most people can't train 5 days a week hard and not run into a wall eventually. And like I said, you've done a lot better job over the past several years of just not trying to stuff everybody into that box and not alienating people that only can train 1 or 2 days a week. You're now
Yeah,
leaned
it's
into them and said, hey, train 1, 2 days a week. Well, you'll get promoted or not at the level that you're training at. It's okay if you're stuck at blue belt forever. It's fine. But, if you can only train 1 or 2 days a week, I'd rather you train 1 or 2 days a week versus killing yourself training 5.
yeah, I've always thought like one day a week is better than nothing because you're still going to be able to grow. But
Mhm.
the problem with training one day a week is if you're not studious during the week and you're not thinking about it, like you don't need to train. You could train one day a week if you're watching videos and you're thinking about jujitsu and you're really trying to get better. You can still get better at one class a week because you can come in, you can work the stuff you've been thinking, you can do the drills, you can keep your body in a good enough shape to really improve. A normal student needs like 2 to 3 days a week to really improve because they're not doing drills at home, they're not doing stretches, they're not doing other exercises. They're just when they come in, they train and they don't think about it other than that.
Mhm.
Those students usually are the ones that I lean on to get in there a little bit more because you can tell they don't think about it at home. They're not making any improvements outside the gym. Um, so Mick is a good example. You see Mick, right? And
Mhm.
he, I don't know if I should say this or not, but he has a little anxiety problem. So like when he trains, sometimes he doesn't pick up the information as it's given. But he'll go home and he'll think about it, and when he comes back the next class, he has it. And to me, that's way better than someone that comes in all the time and like doesn't really learn outside of the class. Like, so he's spending more time thinking about it and working on it than the person is that's in class. So sometimes it's not even about injury prevention; it's just about training. So like my views on that have changed a whole lot just in the way that I see how people train, much less even just injury prevention, like you're talking about, or injury reduction, not prevention, because you can't
Yeah,
prevent it.
yeah. One of the things I do clinically is I'll always ask people, after the end of my subjective portion where I'm interviewing them, finding out what's going on, what happened, why they're there to see me. I always ask people, and I say, seems like a silly question, but what are your goals? And 85% of the people are like, well, I don't want to be in pain, or I want to move better, or I want to find out what's going on. But I get some weird goals. And it's not up to me to decide what their goals are. It's up to me to find out, okay, what can I do to help them reach their goals if I can, or do I have to send them to somebody else? And, I kind of think the same as in your wheelhouse too. It's like, what are your goals? You have to be in tune with what your students' goals are and what they really want out of coming to jiu-jitsu. Everybody's different for why
Right.
they're on the mat. And everybody's fighting a different battle, and that kind of moves, that line kind of moves all the time. Some people they're just sort of hobbyists, and all of a sudden, boom, they're right into competitions and they're all in, and then they drop back out of that again. And your job is tough because you have to kind of take your class and say, okay, I have competitors and I have hobbyists, and I have to sort of work with all of them at the same time. It's pretty tough. So
And
yeah,
make
it's
sure
not
no one
something I
kills each
envy.
other.
Yeah, it makes me not envy that. I get to work with one patient at a time with one set of goals.
Yeah. So Cliff Richards, you're never too late to join our party. I don't know whose friend he is. He's probably Ray's friend if he's
Oh
late.
yeah, he's my friend.
Hi, race friend.
So he jumped in and he wanted to do that. But I think the perfect example of this is just what we worked on right before the wrestling tournament. Like I came in and you're like, "What is your goal?" I'm like, "I need to make it through today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about tomorrow. Like I just
Yep.
need to get through today. Help me out."
And it's not my job to tell you what your goal is. It's my job to tell you if it's clinically unsafe. That's my job, and I'll tell you that. I don't tell you don't do it. I say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do this, but if all right, if you want to do it, fine. Again, it's risk reward. It's not up to me to tell people how to do it. And I mean, if you were to take an extreme example of this, of risk reward, think of someone like Kurt Angle, right? Do you think he was probably told by somebody at some point, hey, maybe you shouldn't go out there with a fracture in your cervical spine? He was probably told that, right? But what if he had done that? What if he had pulled out? Would we even know who Kurt Angle is at this point in time?
Probably not.
No, he
Didn't
would
he?
have faded
Didn't
into obscurity, right? He won a gold medal with, as he says, a
with a
broken
broken
freaking
neck,
neck.
right? Yeah.
So
Yep.
so not only did he win the gold medal, which got him some level of fame, but that also got him into the WWF, WWE, where he continued his fame. So if you gave Kurt Angle that choice to go back in time, he would do it 100 times out of 100.
Or a
I
million
mean,
out of a million. Like it's definitely
yeah,
worth it.
and yeah, if you were told how it's going to turn out, one way or the other, hey, you're going to fade into complete obscurity and be a real estate salesman, middle class guy, or you're going to be, essentially nationally famous and maybe a multimillionaire. I mean, again, all three of us would have taken that any day of the week.
I mean,
So,
that's what football players do. Like
right.
every practice, every game, pretty much.
Yeah, it's not up to me to tell people, hey, it's whether it's worth it to me or not is irrelevant. It's whether it's worth it to the person.
Yeah, and I appreciate your services. I injured my neck before the wrestling tournament and couldn't even turn my head. It was terrible. Like, not that I can turn my head very good in the first place, but it was really bad. Dr. Krol worked on me, and I was in some pretty precarious positions, and I was never unable to compete due to like the pain in my neck, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, and I went and saw it. I'm like, oh, that must have sucked. Because you were caught in a half Nelson at one point, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, half Nelson armbar. He's trying to run it over.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's got to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, right to the sore side too. But
Of course,
I
of
wasn't gonna
course,
go over. Forget that. I didn't go there to get pinned.
that's right.
Uh, so there's quite a few injuries in jiu-jitsu, and our knees are like you talk to jiu-jitsu people, they have bad knees. and bad necks. What can we do to try and have some more injury reduction to our knees and our necks?
The knees are tough because a lot of traditional knee training is done on the feet. So if you think of knee injuries and risk reduction on knee injuries, you're talking mostly people who are cutting athletes and standing. So a lot of the training programs, if you ever look up, knee exercises, you're going to find a lot of these are done in standing. In jiu-jitsu, we're not usually, especially if we suck at takedowns, we just pull a guard, right? And then we get smashed by Caveman. He laughs at us, but hey, we pull a guard. So, which is what I did to Josh before the tournament that he competed in. We rolled together, so I just pulled guard. I'm like, I know you're going to take me down anyway, which is what everybody's going to think at the tournament, so I'm just going to pull guard. So, but anyway, you're in kind of precarious positions, doing all sorts of different guards and twisting your knee and putting a lot of torque on your knee, doing things like triangles. So it's a lot of different challenges on the knee. So really what it comes down to is your hips have to be mobile. If your hips aren't mobile, then your knee is going to have to try to pick up that mobility and pick up that slack. And therein lies a huge problem for a lot of the jiu-jitsu people. Ankles as well, you can try to make your ankle more mobile, but really what we find in ankles is not the dorsiflexion issue where you're pulling your toes up. It's more the twisting motions. And I'm not talking about stopping heel hooks, because if a person locks your joint out, it doesn't matter how mobile your ankle is, the knee's still going to snap. And I'm not talking about a heel hook, but I'm talking about the mobility at the ankle and the mobility at the hip to allow the knee to actually get into position without getting torqued itself. Because the one thing the knee doesn't have is the knee doesn't have an inherent way to protect itself. It doesn't have deep muscle like the shoulder does. So the more layers you have of muscle, so layers closer to the skin and then layers deep down, the more ability the joint has to protect itself. The knee doesn't have that. The knee has the quads, the hamstrings crossing it in the front and back. It's got a little bit of the adductor, which are muscles that pull your legs together, or the groin muscles, as they're commonly called, your groins. And then it's got a fibrous band on the outer side, the IT band, and those are really the tissues that kind of dynamically hold it together, meaning under movement. Everything else is ligaments. Ligaments don't contract. They just stop two bones from moving, and when a bone moves too far, the ligament snaps. That's essentially what happens. So again, if the hip is putting the rest of the joint in the position where it can't move, then those ligaments get stressed much quicker, and the joint doesn't have any way to protect itself. So really, for the jiu-jitsu people, it's getting the spine, getting the hips, and getting the ankle nice and mobile, and then stable on top of it. So when I say stable, what I mean is the ability to move and then the ability to stop moving. So if you can't move, you're not stable, you're stiff. So the big difference between that is stiffness is when your spine doesn't move, you bring that same immobility to your golf swing, to your jiu-jitsu. It can help you in certain positions, as Jeff and I have noted from jiu-jitsu. Certain people are stiff and it actually helps them. Mm-hmm. I remember you telling, who was it? I think it was Joe K. Don't stretch because you're really solid right here. And in the back of my head, I'm like, no, do stretch, but then stabilize it afterwards. But that takes more work.
Joe's not about doing extra work.
No, and it is what it is. So again, it's knowing your audience. Hey, he's not going to do that. Okay, don't give it to him. I had a patient actually tell me that one time. She looked at me after I put her through an exercise thing for her home exercise stuff. She goes, I am never, ever going to do this. Okay, cool. And that's great, because at least I know where we stand. Okay, let's give you something that you're going to do. Let's find something else then. I'd rather have a person tell me that than come back in 2 weeks and say, yeah, I never did it. So, getting back to your original thing, spine, always the spine. You want that mobile and stable, hips mobile and stable, and that's going to protect your knees a lot more than your standing exercises like your single leg deadlifts and stuff, which are still important, but they don't translate as directly as they do with a lot of other sports.
Right, because there's so much side twisting motion. Like, I'm just thinking, De La Riva, that's where my knee gets all messed up.
Yeah, De La Riva, absolutely.
And when they push your knee in and you keep it in no matter what, like, because you're not gonna let them pop it out. So like, I feel it in my ankle, but it's always in my knee, especially on my left knee. So I had to really stop playing De La Riva just because it's like undoable for my knee. I can't bring that pressure. I can't lift people all the time. So like, it takes away a lot of my ability to even move in that position.
Yeah, and I was working on bottom with Josh, and I was doing some De La Riva stuff, and he's pushing down on my legs, trying to get past them, and it's just a different set of positions. So one of the valuable things you want in looking for either a trainer or a physical therapist or anybody who's going to be working with you is at least some level of understanding of what you do. You don't have to be a jiu-jitsu black belt to treat people, but you have to at least understand what they do. Because one thing I absolutely hate when PTs or physicians tell people this is, well, just don't do that. Oh, okay. I mean, come on. This is what a stupid comment that is, and I've had that said to me before. Yeah, just don't do that. Oh, all right.
I know I'm not going to see you again.
Right. Yeah, and I've fired practitioners for stuff like that. I mean, I had a practitioner, physician, looking at his computer. He's looking off to the side, not looking at me at all, and he was using body mass index. So he's looking at my height and weight. Now, by body mass index, I'm just shy of being obese. By body mass index. Now, if you look at me, yeah, I'm not shredded, but I'm not obese. I'm clearly not unhealthy looking. He's looking at his screen, not looking at me. He's like, you should start working out. Cool. You're fired. I mean, you're fired. I mean, come on, do better.
Yeah. Now, if it was Ray, it'd be acceptable.
Listen, I'm 6'1".
No, Ray's cutting down, man.
That's all right. But is it accurate that I'm supposed to be like 170 if I'm 6'1", right?
Now, body mass index it's kind of silly because it works pretty well for people who do not exercise at all. People who are sedentary, they're inactive. What it's a good indicator of is health risk. So heart disease, vascular issues, endocrine issues. It's a great indicator of health risk. But simply put, you don't need BMI. If someone were to walk in to see Professor Jeff and say, hey, I'm not active, I don't exercise, Jeff doesn't need a medical license to tell you you're probably at risk for all these things. Like, he doesn't need to be a physical therapist to say you should probably start moving. So BMI becomes far less useful the more a person is active and the more they start exercising, because muscle is denser than adipose tissue or fat. So that throws that scale way out of whack. So it's a general guide, and like I said, it's only useful for people who aren't active and they're completely sedentary. But again, you get better information by asking them questions, and you're going to give them the same advice anyway without the numbers. So yeah, kind of a useless scale. Still sticks around because it's easy and it's quick, objective data you can throw into a sheet, and it looks like you did a lot of work and you were really thorough in your examination. You're not. You just threw them on a scale.
So I got two questions talking about what we're talking about, and one might be a dumb question, but I teach all the time, so like if I have a dumb question, people listening probably have a dumb question. So is there any research that indicates like if I'm over that BMI with just because I have more muscle, am I still at more risk for heart disease because I'm still carrying more weight in my body for my height?
You are still carrying more weight, but your heart's going to adapt to that to some degree. So obviously, when you go too far, you can run into fibrous problems in the heart where the heart becomes, so the one ventricle of your heart, your left ventricle, is going to pump blood out to the rest of your body. Okay. And if you're a marathon runner, that chamber gets bigger to pump more volume of blood because you need blood to all of your body. If you're a power lifter, we're using the two extremes here, that wall gets thicker because it's got to push the blood harder. All right. So it's going to make different adaptations depending on what you do. So if you are a power lifter, it's going to make that adaptation the way it's supposed to make it. But if you go too far into it, it can become fibrous and not pump the way it's supposed to. So yeah, going too far in any direction is not a problem. But having a lot of extra mass, it's actually more problematic to have a lot of body fat. So if you have a lot of stored body fat, a ton of stored body fat, if you were to take body fat tissue and cut it, you're going to find it's pretty vascular, meaning it's got arteries and veins going in and out of it, because it has to be able to get that body fat, theoretically, into the bloodstream to be used as energy somewhere else in the body. That's what stored body fat is. It's energy. So it's highly vascular. But you have those little small blood vessels, and you have a lot more of them than a person like Professor Jeff, who doesn't have a ton of body fat on him, right? So if you have to push blood through a lot of small vessels, that changes your blood pressure and raises it. So that's actually far more unhealthy than a person who has a whole lot of muscle tissue and the heart has made the adaptations, because a person who's got a lot of adipose tissue and stored body fat hasn't made those adaptations to change their heart. They haven't challenged their heart, or at least not in a good way. So yeah,
I love it.
it's not a bad thing. It's just, again, too much of it can go too far. Obviously, you can run into problems, but no, these are all healthy adaptations that happen over time.
I love that a lot. That's an answer to the question I've always had. I always want to know if there's research into like the bigger muscular guys about that too. Brett Richards gave us My Boys.
Yeah, there's old Brett. That's my man right there.
Yeah. Brett, we still gotta get my website fixed. Brett's my website guy that I always talk about, so we gotta get that hooked up.
Brett's all good.
Yeah, he's awesome. He does so much stuff for us, and you gotta come in and train too, man. Now your babies are gone. Come train. Come do some kickboxing.
There you go.
Jared said the military uses BMI. Not sure if they still do. He was constantly over, despite 20 years ago running a first-class physical fitness test. Is that a problem you run into in your field too? Like military and police using old standards?
Yeah, they don't change much. Military and police use BMI. A lot of them still use Cooper testing. So it's, these are things that just stick around because bureaucracies don't change, and government's especially slow to change. So, these things will stick around. And unfortunately, if you want to play in that realm, you got to deal with their rules. It's silly, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. You can present them with all the evidence you want, but they're like, yeah, this is how we do it. So dealing with institutions like that, you're dealing with androids. Does not compute, must do what's told. Like we've all dealt with. Any of us, we've all gone to the DMV, so we've all dealt with it.
Yeah, and you work with you work right with it too, so you probably see it more than anyone else.
Skinny fat people, huh, Amanda?
Yeah. Oh man. Oh look, Brett's at the hospital. Like he's always currently ER with my pops. I'll message y'all in a bit. Good to see you guys doing live shows for the people. Keep up the good work. Right. Brett was actually one of the first people to be behind us. He sat in all our backstage meetings when we were finding a place to do this and set up our website. So he's an old school guy. So it's good to see him back.
Yeah. Ran to Brett before I even had my own shop. So
hope his pop's all right.
Yes, yeah. Always. Hope his pop's all right.
You should see Dr. Krol. He'd be fine. No problem.
Well, it depends what it is. We all have our fields of practice, and mine is not urgent care.
So the other question I had, Ray, I'm sorry to cut you off real quick, but Joe Rogan always talks about the knees over toes guy, and he has a lot of somewhat unique exercises for training your knee muscles. Do you think that would help jiu-jitsu practitioners, or do you think that's a little bit more for the realm of strike? Like Joe Rogan always talks about it helping his kicks and stuff. I was wondering if you've seen any of that, or what you think about that. If you have not,
no, that stuff is good, and part of the thing is there again. We get these things that get stuck in the medical world. Like BMI is one of them; just gets stuck there. And another one is that your knees shouldn't go past your toes in a squat or a lunge, and it's kind of silly. If that movement wasn't supposed to happen, then our body wouldn't be able to do it. Or wouldn't be able to do it safely in most people. And most people can go knees over toe or knees past toes. It's perfectly fine. So what happens is in everybody, it's not fine. Certain people can't control that. So certain people shouldn't do it. So all three of us here, if we were just to take the three of us as a unit and I was to give all of us, okay, we're going to do these exercises. We're going to do deep squatting as best we can. Obviously, Professor Jeff doesn't do these very well, but go into, like, let's say a knees over toes position, either in a lunge or a squat. I may be able to do 100 of them a day, where Ray could do 40 a day before he started having pain, or 50 a day, But the point is, everybody's got a different dose limit. Some people can't do it at all. Some people respond really well from it. Really, the whole point of the knees past the toes is being able to handle the shear of the bones in your lower extremity, meaning the femur and the thigh, and mostly the tibia and the leg, which is everything below the knee, essentially. So being able to handle that shear is really, really important, because you get pushed and pulled and you have to stop quickly. And if you don't have that ability to control it, you stress all your ligaments. And that's not good. Your ligaments shouldn't get stressed too much. I mean, they should get normal day-to-day stress, but they shouldn't get pounded because the joint can't protect itself. So yeah, knees over toes is perfectly fine. It just got stuck in orthopedics' heads that you shouldn't do it. And once things get stuck, it's hard to get rid of them. So you get old school information that pops out there. Yeah, you don't do this. Don't do knees over toes. People do it all the time.
Two other
It's
things
perfectly
that he
fine.
does that I started doing myself, I incorporated in my training, is one is he likes to pull the sled backwards. So he pulls a weighted sled and he pulls it backwards to put load on the back of your knees. And the
Mhm.
other thing he talks about is walking backwards uphill on the treadmill. And I added both of those to my like when I go to the gym, I try and do that like at least once a week.
Mhm.
And it's hard to tell whether it's helping or not because it's all anecdotal. I don't really know. I was just wondering if there's any kind of empirical research on that kind of stuff. That's more your field than mine.
Yeah, that there is evidence on it that it's getting more and more support. But really, the theory behind it is, you don't want to just protect the knee going forward. You want to protect it going backwards as well. So protecting the knee going forward and backwards is an interplay between the quads on the front and the hamstrings on the back to simplify it. It's an interplay between the two. They're not on and off. They're working together to stabilize the joint and to allow the leg to move with the knee inflection and extension and the hip to move flexion and extension. So working backwards is just sort of reversing the equation in terms of the load, but it's perfectly fine. And it's a good thing to protect the knee because, again, we do move backwards, we do move forwards. We want to be able to protect the knee in a whole bunch of different positions. So, yeah, the theory behind it is fantastic. It's just, one of the things I find, and, if you guys go into the Instagram wormhole and you go into the research wormhole, I mean, just start searching exercises on Instagram or TikTok, and you're going to find all these exercises that you have to do, right? And if you add them all in, you're doing about 15 hours of exercises every single day. And that's just not reasonable. So, you have to sort of piece together your program for what you need, whether it's jujitsu or running or just day-to-day stuff. I have clients that do 15 minutes of hygienic movement that I've given them every single day. And if they don't do it, they learn real quick that, boy, I really should do this. I have one guy, he's like, I do half my program in the shower and then I do half my program out of the shower and it works perfectly fine. And then I can still play softball. I can still run. I can still do all my stuff. And, as you get older, your body just needs more movement hygiene. It's just the way it is. And I call it movement hygiene because it sort of sets it in the right realm. When we think of hygienic things, you're never done with it, right? Like you're never done brushing your teeth. You're never done taking care of your skin. You're never done taking care of your hair. Not Ray, but like you're never done taking care of these things. So like, even if I was to tell a person, when are you done brushing your teeth? Because that's usually my response when someone says, do I have to do exercises forever? I'm like, do you have to brush your teeth forever?
I got good teeth.
Yeah, no, you got great china. You got great china. It's awesome. No, but it's really the truth though. You're never done, and even if you're like, well, I'll just get dentures, you have to take care of those too. So you're still never done. Your oral hygiene never ends, and your movement hygiene never ends either. It's just for whatever reason, 0.8% of our mass gets all this attention, 2 minutes, 2 times a day, and then the rest of us, all our muscles and joints and bones and everything else gets, I'll take care of it after it's injured. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how we got the short end of that stick, but.
So what do you say what advice would you give a guy in his 40s and want to start training kickboxing or jiu-jitsu and he got a torn bicep muscle that he never got surgery for?
Is it functional? It'd be the first question. Like, I mean, what limitations does the person have? Because just because they have a torn bicep muscle doesn't mean they've lost any function.
Right.
There's a lot of redundancy in the body. And if it's still functional and operational, and, honestly, what you do is you just ramp your way up into it, the same as anything else. You start trying it. And if you find that hitting something 4 times a week is causing problems, then knock it down to twice a week. If you find that twice a week is causing problems, knock it down to 1. If you find that you can't tolerate it at all, then maybe it's not the sport for you.
That person is me. But
I figured. Almost always when a person says, "Yeah, I have a question about this," like they're usually talking about themselves.
But I'll tell you this: I could hit the punching bag with my arms. It's good. I just wonder is there any exercise I should do for it? For my
Again, it's these things are always personalized. So if I was to say, yeah, do these 3 or 4 exercises, that's really not appropriate because I don't know what's going on with it.
gotcha.
So I mean, you can do sort of generic shoulder exercises and generic bicep exercises, but it could be a mobility problem in the spine that's leading to all that. It could be stability issues in the shoulder. It could be muscle endurance in the bicep or anything else. So you're far better off getting it really looked at and saying, okay, here's what's going on versus just sort of shotgunning and trying to guess. But going into the activity, you got to find out if you can tolerate it in the first place. So and some people can, some people can't. I have people all the time that want to do this activity and they just can't tolerate it. Their body keeps rejecting it. Okay, it's not the activity for you, which is perfectly fine. But if you want to force your way into it, then you got to deal with the outcomes of your body, shutting down on you.
I would show you how good Dr. Krol fixed my bicep if I didn't have this great integrity sweater on. I tore my bicep off down here at the elbow, and I had it surgically repaired. And I saw Dr. Krol, and I was back on the mats. And well, I was back on the mats in a day, but I wasn't supposed to be. But I was back like at full capacity, like 3 months sooner than the doctor even said. Like they're like, don't lift anything. Dr. Krol had me lifting in like 2 weeks, and like we were downstairs drilling the arm drags. Like I still have videos that pop up in my memories all the time. And like this is one of the things about Dr. Krol that really made me like truly loyal to him all the way through, is like how he got me back from that injury. And like at the time, like I didn't really take care of my body, and I started after that to take 1 day a week just to dedicate to working with Dr. Krol and make myself better too, physically, and just keep my body healthy.
Yeah, and that was hard for you.
It's still hard to this day.
Because what happens is a lot of people look at skill development and they say, okay, I want to get better at jujitsu. So they make the pretty obvious connection that if I want to get better at jujitsu, I need to do more jujitsu, right? Which makes sense. And sure, it works, but if you're a better athlete, you're going to pick up the skills of jujitsu faster. If you move better, you're going to be a better athlete, which means you're going to pick up the skills of jujitsu better. If you're healthy, you're going to move better. You're going to be a better athlete. You're going to pick up the skills better. So working on everything that supports that is as important as anything else. I'm not saying you should spend all of your time doing athletic training and movement training, but enough where you're fixing the holes in your jujitsu, or you can pick up these movements better. We all have different movement profiles, and some of them can change, some of them cannot. But again, if we take care of all those things, again, healthy, move well, be a better athlete, then your jiu-jitsu game or your running game or your dancing or your kickboxing or anything is going to get better. And that's really tough for people to pick up on because, again, they don't like to do things that don't look exactly like the skill.
I'm going to make a blanket statement here that Dr. Krol's probably going to hate.
Blanket statements, I love them.
If you're post 34 and you were a competitive athlete for most of that time and you're still doing athletic practice, you should be a CNPT because you're going to have injuries and deficiencies that you don't even know anymore because you covered it with skill, and it's definitely affecting your performance. And I found so many holes in my game working with Dr. Krol, even just coming back from the bicep, because I had a bicep injury. We looked at my knees, we looked at my squat, we looked at my thoracic problems, and all these things I've made up for over the years with just changing my skill set in jiu-jitsu. And since we added the flexibility routine in the morning, in the beginning of practice, I feel better. I'm going back to my inversion game. I used to play like forever ago. Just the other day, I was upside down. Ryan was on top. I was taking his back. I was like going upside down, inverted from full guard to inversion to a back take. Like I haven't done that since like my early 30s. And man, I feel so much better in the mats in this last year or so from just that warm up, I think.
Simply put, if you make a living with your body in any way, shape, or form, if you are a competitive athlete in any way, shape, or form, you should be seeing someone. Kinesiologist, an athletic trainer, a personal trainer who knows what the hell they're doing. Not me in 2004. I was a god-awful personal trainer in 2004. I was fucking terrible. But honestly, I like if you're a Josh Allen or a Stephon Diggs and you don't have a private physical therapist working with, like, I don't understand that at all. like those high level athletes that don't. I mean, Novak Djokovic, I mean, you guys are aware of him. He's a very high level tennis player. He brings a sports psychologist on the road with him. Now, I don't expect people who, want to do a couple tournaments locally as an amateur level to have a sports psychologist, but it's always strange because people see the exercises that the pro players do, the UFC guys, and they say, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that," and then they don't want to do all the other things that are underneath. Like they want to do the drills that Tom Brady was doing and Peyton Manning was doing. Well, do you want to study film for 4 hours a day? Do you want to have a year-long eating program like Tom Brady had? Like, do you want to do all these things? And they're like, no, I just want to do the drill that looks like football. Okay, then you're not going to get better. Like it's just, the reason that drill works for him is because he does all those things on the underside. So, yeah, I mean, even a marginally competitive athlete, you don't have to see a physical therapist every week, but check in with them every 6 months or so. I have people that check in with me every 6 months or as needed. They're changing something up. They make an appointment with me. Okay, let's take a look at this and make sure everything's going okay. Let's find where the holes are in my game because I know I've been overdoing my training. So I haven't been doing the stuff that I should be doing. Let's kind of fix this and hit the reset button. Yeah, I don't understand why most people don't do that. But again, it's when you're in your 20s, you don't have to. So that behavior kind of gets reinforced. And then you try that technique post 34, as Professor Jeff said, and eventually you fail your body. I'm not going to say your body fails you because your body usually tells you, hey, dipshit, don't do this. Or I need some help. I need something. And you just say, whatever. Throw some tape on it. It's fine. Take some ibuprofen, whatever. Let's go in the ice bath. It's all good. And then, eventually you let your body down and hey, look at that. My shoulder doesn't work anymore.
If you say only young people can do that, that's the time you should start seeing someone that can look at your movement.
Right, because only young people can do that. And when you're talking about things like explosiveness and reflexes, all that stuff decreases with age. But your mobility should not. Your ability to move should not. So, yeah, are you going to be doing explosive takedowns the same way a 22-year-old would be doing them? You probably,
no.
You're probably not going to, but it's still possible. You still should be able to do the movements. It's just, stay in your age class.
Yeah, exactly. I learned that the hard way.
We need your gym to grow so we can have the over 40 class so people like me can go in there and roll around in peace and not get slammed by all the monsters.
Except you're one of the monsters.
I'm not a monster. I'm not. I'm nothing,
Here
man.
you are.
Yeah. I'm very gentle.
You all the post 40 guys are all the monsters in the gym.
No. Will's a monster. I had to wait for Will to calm down before I started rolling with him. I just started rolling with him a couple weeks ago.
Will's the exception to that rule. You're right. Will is the exception to that rule. I don't know why I didn't think of him as post 40. He's very young looking. But you're tough to deal with. Jared, like all you big guys, they're all older. 40 plus class doubles.
That's right. That's why I stay away from the place on Sundays. When I see cars starting to pull into the lot, I end my workout upstairs really quick and I slither out the front door. Like I don't want to get smashed by all those monsters.
You'd loved it today. We closed all the windows, turned the heat on. It was awesome.
Awesome. Wonderful. I had my air conditioner going and ready and the additional fan. I was 64 degrees, just the way we like it.
We left puddles of sweat all over the place today. It was good.
Yeah, I like when you lied to me the other day and said, "Oh, I'm getting an air conditioner in here." Oh, okay.
I'm going to.
Yeah,
I really am going to.
Yeah, you aren't.
I was gonna do it this weekend and then I got busy. I'm definitely gonna do it.
Yeah, but then you're gonna charge everybody $1 to have you turn it on.
More than that, I gotta make up the difference in rent.
Wow, the whole $25.
$1 per class per person.
There you go. That'll make it up real quick.
Corporate caveman.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, it's one of those things. We all have different abilities to train and abilities to tolerate certain things. I don't do well in the heat, and I'm aware of that. And I don't tell you how to run your business. If you want to leave it hot and whatever, that's fine. yeah, I just have certain things I have to deal with health wise. I'm not overly durable. I mean, as if I didn't train the way I do, I would be crippled. I'm not durable like you are, and I don't have a great health tolerance like you do. So I have to really be careful about how I eat before classes. Like I can't eat anything heavy 3-4 hours before class. I've really had to really explore a lot of changes in my diet to try to stop my blood pressure from dropping during rolls. I mean, it happened a couple weeks ago because I went out of town and I got out of my routine for like 3 or 4 days, and it was a mess. And then I felt a lot better maybe a week later when I got back on my routine. But yeah, you really have to be honest with yourself as to what you're willing to tolerate and what you need to do and what you need to do going into your training. You can't just be like, oh, do this and do that. Like I had Will ask me the other day, like, when should you eat before training? I'm like, everybody's different. You got to find what works for you. Some people can wolf, like Professor Jeff could wolf down a burrito during warm-ups and whatever. It's all good. Me, I not no go. It's like said 3 or 4 hours. I can't have anything heavy after 3 or 4 hours before training. I know it. So yeah, you really have to take stock in yourself and what you can do training wise, and that is your responsibility as a patient and as a member of a gym, and it's your responsibility to yourself to be aware of what your body's telling you.
Okay, a
To
couple
make those
things to
changes.
clear up. I couldn't eat a burrito before class. I can't eat anything too greasy, and then train like that. I have to run to the bathroom. I'll be fine training, but I have to run to the bathroom, and then I have to like take. Sorry guys, I got to run to the bathroom. Figure out warm-ups on your own. That happened.
Right.
That's happened more than once when I had a burrito or something right before class, and then in the middle of class I got to run out like after the warm-ups.
So
But
what would you say? Will you eat some fruits?
no, for me like I can eat anything as long as it's not greasy. So like if it's I could eat a full steak with like nothing horrible on it. Like just eat a steak or like a potato and then train immediately after. I'd be fine. But I can't eat like anything with like mayonnaise or grease or like fried or anything like that. That's not
Gotcha.
too clean. And honestly, the carnivore diet is the best thing that I've ever done as far as training. I can eat whenever, and just eating the clean meat is like, man, it was great. And then as soon as I get off the diet, I feel the difference immediately. My inflammation goes way up. Like I just got off today mac and cheese today. I feel terrible right now while I'm sitting here. I can feel bloated and my elbows swelling up. And some of it's psychological, I know, but some of it's not, because when I go to the class tomorrow, my knee's swollen up. Like that's not psychological.
Mhm.
That's physiological. Like it's not like it hurts. It'll be literally swollen tomorrow when I go there. Because I had soda too, so I know
Hey
it'll
Doc,
definitely get me good.
Yeah.
what do you think about 16-hour fasting?
So fasting's been something that has gotten popular. Fasting workouts, fasting, intermittent fasting. There are medical risks to it that again you have to be aware of. So if you're diabetic, and one of the problems is some people don't know they're diabetic. So then they go into this fasting thing, and then all of a sudden their blood pressure tanks, and then their blood sugar tanks, and they have all sorts of problems with it. So you do really, and I hate to say this because it's such a generic line, but you really do want to speak with a medical professional about it. It's not like, please speak to a physician before starting this program. No, you really do want to make sure that it's the right thing for you. So does intermittent fasting work? Yeah, for some people, absolutely it does. Does fasting workouts work? Yeah, absolutely. For some people, it does, but for others, it doesn't. So the best thing you can do is try some degree of it. So let's say instead of a 16-hour fast, how do you do with a 10-hour fast? Do a workout when you first wake up in the morning. Don't eat 3 or 4 hours before bed if you sleep a normal schedule, unlike Caveman over here. But if you are sleeping, let's say 6-7 hours a night, or if you're at least in bed 6-7 hours a night, don't eat 3 hours beforehand. See how you do with 10 hours. See how you tolerate it. See how you tolerate 12 hours, 14 hours. Some people can't. And again, it's all these things work just for different people. So it's kind of your job to try these things out and fit them in. You just have to understand that there are some medical risks. It's not great for everybody. So you do want to start talking to the right people and start getting a profile. And if you are the type of person who haven't seen a physician in 7 years, you only go to urgent care when there's a problem, and you get an antibiotic if you need it from urgent care. You never go see a physician. Then you're definitely the one that should be talking to someone. And it doesn't have to be a physician. It can be anyone who just knows a lot about it. It could be a nutritionist. It could be a dietitian. It could be I know an occupational therapist that she is really big on this stuff, and she's a great resource. Her name's Kelly Mahar, and she works out of Rochester. I think her program is called Kelwell, which is kind of cool. I don't have a cool name like that. My name just rhymes with everything. But no, she's great, and she can talk people through it. And she's not the type of person that's going to be like, oh yeah, do this because this is the program I sell. She's like, do this because it's the right thing for you or not. So yeah, it's a good question, but it's you just definitely again want to work your way into it, not just dive into it. And when people dive into things and fads, that's when they get into trouble. It's like when barefoot running and minimalist running got really popular. People threw minimalist shoes on or threw their shoes in the garbage and then started going barefoot and running 15 miles a week and then having stress fractures instead of easing their way into it. So
You're a big
same thing with
proponent for
that.
those shoes, right?
Oh yeah, I like barefoot minimalist training, but again, it's what I tell people is fix your gait and fix your stride and fix your running form with the minimalist, and then go back to your regular shoes because it doesn't change. I remember one time we were doing one of the workouts outside at Meadowbrook, and I started running, and Professor Jeff's like, "Oh my God, look at his calves." And it's because I was doing the minimalist that I got that running form. I got onto my midfoot and forefoot and started doing everything, you know, running in a way that was beneficial for me. And then I went back to wearing regular shoes to protect my feet.
I like that.
So
Roll with Dr. Krol.
yeah, that's an easy W. That's a restaurant for most people.
No, for your business. Roll with Dr. Krol PT.
Oh, there you go. Roll with Dr. Krol. I get a lot better if I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
I'm still a hobbyist.
for sure. Two quick things I want to talk about the business. Number one, I think the training room should be climate controlled for regular students, and this is one of the reasons why I want to get air conditioning. I think it's important that you're in a comfortable environment to learn, because I think it's important to learn in a relaxed environment so that you can actually learn technique. And not everyone wants to come and compete. And I think the heat training is really important for people that want to do tournaments, and that's why it's a competition class. So this is like completely different than like a regular class. And like I'm like, all right, we're gonna shut the windows and turn the heat on now, guys. So now's the time. If you can't keep up, you should not be here. Right. This is what we need to do to compete for tournaments, because in the tournaments it's either going to be really hot or really cold. There's never any climate control. And yesterday at Grappling Industries, it was probably like 90 degrees in there. And it's hot. And when you fight, it's hot. When the lights are down on you and you're in the cage, the mats are hot, and you feel overheated, and your body feels like that all the time. And I think it's a perfect simulation. If you can train like that, you can fight like that. And I try and make sure I watch everyone, make sure not everyone's looking dizzy or they're gonna pass out. Like it's constant monitoring too. So like it's tough for me to be as involved in class as I wanted to be. At first, I was doing every class and I was like banging with people, and then like I realized I need to really make sure no one like passes out or gets hurt, because
You don't want
it's
that.
hot in there. It's terrible. So I need to make sure that I'm watching everyone, make sure no one's looking lethargic or anything like that. But I think it's the best way to train, and like this is how wrestling's been done for a very long time. So it's tradition, but it's tradition with a reason.
Well, there are certain things that are postural, positional, and environmental demands that you can't get around. So even when I work with my patients, just because I say, okay, this isn't good for you, well, they work at GM and they're 5 years away from a pension. They're not quitting their job. They're not, and it's okay. I have to work around that. So if you have to train in a certain environment because you have to compete or perform in a certain environment, then you should try to simulate that as best you can. And again, just because I may say, temperature with humidity, when you add those two factors together, you can run into real health risks and health problems. Yeah, that's why they don't train kids outside in, August when it's really hot and really humid, because it's not safe. Or at least they shouldn't. And when they do, they run into problems. But again, if you're going to be going to these tournaments and it's 90 degrees in there with 85% humidity and you walk in and you're sweating already, well, that's the environment you got to be in. So you should probably train for that environment. Firefighters, police, military, miners, longshore fishermen, oil riggers, they have to work in environments that I would say are not safe, but that's the environment they have to work in. So you should probably train for that environment and be able to deal with that environment. So Yeah, and if you can't, then you can't. Then that's not, again, that's your responsibility as a competitor and as a human being to say, this isn't going to work for me. I can't do this.
Yeah,
So,
and we can work around. Like it's not, like hopefully everyone knows that they can just talk with me, and we can change something for them too, and
mhm.
we'll always do that.
Yeah, but you're going to be forthcoming enough with them to say, hey, we can change this to make it 64 degrees in here, but just understand when you go there, it's going to be 90 sometimes, and you're not going to perform well because you're being thrust into a 100% situation in an environment you're not ready for.
Yeah,
So,
and like
like
it
you're
fatigues you
forthcoming
mentally
about it.
too.
Yeah.
You want that terrible feeling because that's if you fight someone that you're gonna feel that at some point. It's gonna be terrible.
hmm Yeah. So you being forthcoming about it, and it is what it is.
Fires are definitely not safe to work in.
No, yeah, just certain jobs are inherently unsafe, and it is what it is. But you have to train for it.
Oh, Jared's got a good one.
Get swole, get swole with crawl. Nice,
There we go.
nice.
Oh man, I love
Oh man,
that. People are
Abraham
crazy in
Lincoln
here.
probably. Jared's got
Oh,
the cats.
people actually feel good. The more you sweat and train, the less you bleed in war. Abraham Lincoln, probably.
There you go. Abe Lincoln wrote it on the internet, so it must be true.
Yeah. Oh man, I got such a leg cramp while we're talking about it. I was so hot and I'm so dehydrated right now, and I'm drinking caffeine.
There you go.
There are some exercises that you 1000% hate, and for one of them is knee extensions, and the other one is the leg press. Can you talk about why you hate those two exercises and any of the other ones that you actually think that people should not do?
Well, the knee extension and the knee extension doesn't hurt people. It's just time is valuable. Time is a resource. So if you waste your time, it's not good, right? So one of the things I did with you is I actually pared things down, right? Because again, when you're training for a fight or you're training for anything, it doesn't matter what it is. If we're going to use your case for example, you got to train your boxing, your Thai, your wrestling, your jujitsu. You have to train all of it. So you can't waste your time in the gym doing useless exercises. And what you don't see is you don't see a carryover effect from doing a knee extension, sitting in a machine, kicking your legs out like this. You don't see a carryover effect into anything else. There's been studies done where they would look at, okay, the quadriceps are a big muscle used in a squat. So a squat's a pretty functional exercise that has a ton of carryover and everything else. So they had people doing knee extensions and it didn't make their squat any better. Even though their knee extension on the machine got better, their squat didn't get any better. So it didn't translate. It doesn't translate into almost any athletic movement. It's fine for a rehab tool in certain instances if you use it briefly and then move on to something more functional and useful. When I say functional, what I mean is that the exercise carries over into other activities. That's what functional means. So people throw that word all around all the time. That's what it means. You do this exercise, it makes you better at this. That's a functional exercise. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I don't like it because it wastes time. Time is way too valuable of a resource. The leg press doesn't have a lot of uses for most people. Now, we've talked about this before, and you've actually said, okay, it actually has a use for me in this realm. So for someone like you or someone who's doing the same things that you're doing, yes, the leg press will have a use for you because again, you're in that position where you are pressing people off you. And you actually did show that in class. I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. There was an
Yep.
exact moment where exactly the leg press came up, and it was the exact same movement. But one of the things I don't like about the leg press for most people is it takes their spine and sort of rounds it when the weight comes down. So what's going to move is the thing that can move the easiest. So when the legs come down, instead of the knees bending and the hips bending, the spine rolls. So you're in a position where the curve is reversed, and then you're pushing a lot of weight against it because the leg press can really be loaded up. So is it inherently safe? I wouldn't say it's inherently unsafe. Most people do it just fine. I'd rather see a squat and deadlift. But one of the things with the leg press is because you can load up so much weight and the legs are so difficult to gain size on without putting a ton of weight on it, the leg press is never going away. So I can tell people all day it's not the best thing for your spine. Squatting is actually a lot better for you. It doesn't matter. People are still going to do it. The knee extension is just more of a time waster because it doesn't translate. At least a leg press, if you're doing jujitsu, yeah, you can make an argument for it, like Professor Jeff did to me before. But it's it's not that I hate the exercise; I hate people wasting their time.
So you say leg extension is pretty much an aesthetic exercise then, because it does give you that nice rounding on your quad. It's just not really functional,
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't translate to anything.
You
So
see
if
like
you're
professional
bodybuilding, it's
bodybuilders
fine.
use it.
Yeah, if you're bodybuilding, it's fine because that's what you're
Yeah.
doing. That's your goal. Because then it is functional. I mean, it's not really tying to function, but it's tying to what you're trying to do. Okay, you're trying to hypertrophy and trying to work certain muscle fibers in a certain way. Fine. But again, for 99% of people who are not bodybuilding, there's a lot better things you can do that will
So
actually
those are
translate
the
into
two we
something
talked
useful.
about. Is there any other big ones that you see a lot that are probably not good for you?
The empty can one is not great. So the empty can is when you're doing some sort of shoulder raise with the thumb down. So kind of like that, right? Where you're doing some sort of side raise with the thumb down. And that sort of came out from old research in the 80s and 90s where they would actually take EMGs and put them into the muscles of the shoulder, like the rotator cuff, and they would take electrodes, put them in there, and they would find that when you did the empty can shoulder raise, that the muscle would turn on. And people were like, wow, this is a great muscle that's turning on the rotator cuff, and that's really what we want. Well, all the EMG does is tell you if there's electrical activity. And what was happening was the rotator cuff was actually getting impinged, it was getting squeezed, and it was getting pissed off. And that's really what was happening, why the electrical signal was turning on. It was getting mad. So it was just a bad use of data. But the exercise stuck around for well over a decade, as this is great shoulder rehab, and then people weren't getting better. So you don't see that one too much anymore. I think it is in the original P90X program, the empty can. He may call it a pour fly. I'm not sure which one he calls it, but again, it's not the end of the world if you do it. It's just not great. So, but that one hasn't really stuck around too much.
Damn it, Ray! Stop clicking that thing.
Are giant calves genetic, or can you grow them? Yeah, you can hypertrophy any muscle of the body. You put enough weight against it, but just certain people are predisposed and have a genetic buildup to gain the Jared calves.
If anyone doesn't know that's watching this podcast, that Jared guy that keeps popping in has the most giant, perfect calves I've ever seen on a human being. They're like jacked too. They're not only just big, but they're like so like defined and vascular. It looks amazing.
Yeah, when he goes up on his toes, he actually pushes the ground away.
Yeah, he's like Chuck Norris.
He's a monster. Jared's a beast. Jared's actually much calmer to roll with now, which I appreciate.
Yeah, me too. Oh my god.
I see. I'm sort of stuck in the area of jujitsu where I think I've talked to you about this before, that I'm not good enough to protect myself against people who are crazy and wild. I'm just not. I'm, like Ilfrey is. You are. Joe K is. Joe K is better than I am, technically. So he can protect himself when people are going crazy. I can't. So I remember when I rolled with Jared early on, and Jared was not as calm as he is now. I had to be kind of a jerk to him a few times because I had to protect myself. It's nothing against Jared. It's just everybody starts that way, and that's why I'm kind of no, you're all right, Jared. You're fine. But it is what it is. So that's why I kind of stay away from the very new white belts that you get coming in sometimes, because I don't want to have to go nuts on them. Just protect myself. I can't get caught in a bad spot like you can. You can get caught in a bad spot. It's no big deal.
That still hurts me too. Like I just have more means to deal with it, and I'm more
Right.
durable too. I think this all goes back to my durability somewhat too. I'll let people do stuff to me. Like I know right about when I'm going to be injured because I've been past the point of injured like so many times. Like I know, all right, I better do something right now or I'm going to be injured. And like it always hurts. Like I'm always hurt, so I can't. It's not really. It's just a constant thing. So I know if I get injured and I take movement away, like it's not good. I know I'm always gonna have pain. That's what I give up to do what I do. Like I've known that we talked about that like 10 years ago. Like this was gonna to be the result. But as long as I stay functional, I'm happy with it. That was my goal, and that's our goal as a training team.
Yeah, it's like when I roll with Josh or Joe K, or I've rolled with Brian once or twice. They're all capable of ramping it up 5% of the time. Like you're well past the point. You can ramp it up 0.5% at a time. Like you're not going to go from 30% to 90, and neither is Joe K or Josh. So it's nice to roll with them because I don't have to worry about them just going bonkers at any point in time. But the newer white belts, yeah, they'll go from 50%, and then all of a sudden they'll see red. Ooh, there's an arm, and then they'll go crazy, like whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
So then you either have to just let them finish it, or smash them.
Yeah. It's such a tough area in jiu-jitsu too. As a coach, I struggle with this, and I see it other places, and you see like a lot of gyms don't let people roll till they have a certain level of experience, usually like their first tip. And I think it's just when you first start rolling, you just don't want to lose. And
Mhm.
then like you don't really have the tools to understand what percent you're rolling at and you want to win. So you're always trying to win. And everyone says just win all the time, but really the practice room is about getting better. And some people find out quicker than others how you do that. And the way to do that is to not injure your training partner. And then
Mhm.
at some point, if you're going to be a competitive athlete, like Will has ramped his spazziness up to a point where now it's not as spazzy, it is effective because
Mhm.
now he's not like wildly flailing elbows or uh, flailing locks. He's just attempting the techniques at a higher rate of performance than we do. So it's
Yep.
more competition level entries, and like I think that's good, and you should be training with people like minded, and like how do you separate those people? This is all the stuff that I'm trying to work on as an owner, and like I'll be upfront with it. Everyone else says they got methods, but every gym I've gone to, it's always the same problem. So
Mhm.
like it's a work that I'm trying to do, and any input that you guys ever offer, like I'll always take.
Well, it's not just a matter of the people you have in the room, but the people you have in the room, they're changing month to month with what
Hmm.
they want. Some people are training for competitions, or some people just they come in amped up for whatever reason, and it's tough to deal with. So you're constantly dealing with moving goalposts and sliding scales, and just constantly changing dynamics of the room. You never know who's going to show up for class that day,
Yeah.
so you just don't know what you're going to get. It's tough, and again, you don't know what again, someone just might be having a bad day and they go bonkers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I mean that's another thing that's tough to deal with. But usually you can see that because they're just a little bit off. Like it's just something you have to be aware of when you monitor the room. And then like the other thing that we deal with is we have small class sizes, so like everyone's kind of got to roll with everyone. There's not it's hard to avoid people when there's like six people. Like
Mm-hmm.
you do five rolls with six people, you're gonna have to roll with someone that's a little bit more intense. But you can always take a roll off. You never force a roll anyone, but then you're not getting training. So,
right,
like,
right.
man,
Yeah.
it's a tough line. And if you ever have any suggestions, I'll always listen to them.
Well, it was nice actually. I think the last time I rolled with Ray, we were at Meadowbrook. We weren't even in the new place yet. I haven't rolled with you since Jeff moved over to Wurlitzer. But no, it was nice because you were actually calm, being 35 pounds heavier than me. It was nice.
Yeah,
Because you
because
weren't.
when I roll to learn, and I was learning. So
Mhm.
I'm not there to beat anybody. I'm just trying to learn.
Mhm.
And you are a good guy to learn
Well,
from.
sometimes I'm all right.
No,
um,
you're a very good guy to learn from actually because you work with people and you figure out the technique yourself, and you can tell whether it works or not on your own because you know how good technique feels. And you're like, man, I'm using too much muscle here. This is not right. And then like you're not afraid to ask, and then we always get it right. And
mhm.
that's one thing that so when a room's like five people, it's easy to get everyone right. When a room's like 10 people, I need you. If you're having a problem, people need to ask, and then like I can help because I usually spend. There's always one group that has trouble, so you're always spending a lot of time with one group, no matter what.
Mhm.
And there's always one group that's going to be lacking behind. Usually, it's because no one wants to work with those two people because they're both new. So you got two brand new people that can't get the top pressure right and the bottom pressure right, so it's just a hot mess. So then first you got to fix the person that's giving the pressure, and then you got to do the person fixing the move, or fix the person doing the move. So you usually spend a lot of time doing that. And actually, at integrity, it's really good because usually one of you guys grabs the new person, and then it works out perfect. But it's not always like that generally. So I appreciate you guys doing that too.
Well, I think one thing you do pretty good, and I don't know if you do it with everybody else, but you do it with me a lot, and I like it, is you'll throw a handicap my way, and not to be a jerk about it, but you're like, I want you to start going to the weak side. I don't want to see you on top. I want to see you on the bottom. And that's good because I'm like, yeah, shit, I'd rather be on top and just be my statue self like I usually am. But
Yeah.
no, it's like I was working with, I forgot the guy's name, but he was newer white belt. And I remember when we were doing the one live drill, so it was the back control and back escapes and stuff like that. And you looked right at me and said, and if you're a lot better than the guy, make sure you let him work. Okay. Because he was brand new. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, just let him work and try to be a good partner. It's not always easy to do, but
No,
you know,
you're one of the good partners to have. Like you're a really good guy, and even though you're big, and like sometimes people get hurt when you roll with someone big, like that's how it is. But usually it's because they're going a little bit hard with you too, and
mhm.
that's what happens. Like if you're gonna go hard, the person that's rolling with you got to protect themselves too, and it is a combat sport
Yeah.
at the end of
And
the day.
again, I'm not technically good enough to really let myself get into horrible positions a lot. I have to get aggressive and just fling the person off of me or do something. It's just like sometimes it sucks, but again, I can't be injured. I run my own business, and my business relies on me being upright and mobile.
I hear that.
Hard to manipulate people's necks when your arms in a sling. Like here, hold on.
Man, you did such a good job on my neck. Man, it was so bad. I cannot recommend Dr. Krol enough. I know he's a friend, and it seems like I'm selling my business partner, which I'm doing that for sure too. But man, he helped me so much with so many different body parts. If if you're a black belt and you know how much it sucks, you definitely need to have a Dr. Kroll for yourself. Mike and Ashley, if you're watching, you should definitely hook up with someone. Everyone needs somebody, And Guardo, you should get like a black belt discount or something.
Hey, I'm willing to negotiate. We're willing to talk. But no, one of the things I'll be forthcoming with the audience here for the 6 people that might be watching me. But one thing, Professor Jeff and I go back a long, long way, like really 30 to 33 years. Really have known each other that long, and have been in constant contact. We've known each other way longer than that, but we really had never significant contact when we were little kids. Jeff is always forthcoming. I remember and he's not mean about it. He's forthcoming about it. I remember when I told him I was going into physical therapy, the look on his face was like, hmm. And he's like, yeah, physical therapy is bullshit. I mean, they just give you stretches to do it. And he's just telling me the experiences that he had. He wasn't, it is what it is. And, he, even as I went through it, it was like, it's just still kind of bullshit. And then I finally worked with him, and he's like, oh, this is how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And there's a lot of really good physical therapists out there. I mean, I've graduated with people and had people graduate after me and people before me that I think are fantastic. There's Joe Westlake out in California. He graduated the year after me. He's fantastic. Amanda Anderson, she's in Texas. She's great. There's a ton of great physical therapists out there. They're hard to find. They don't advertise a lot because they're just doing their own thing. So a lot of people, they don't know any better, so they go to the high volume places because they have the most, marketing budget. Like everybody knows in Western New York, they all know Excelsior Orthopedics and Buffalo Rehab Group, and like they all know those places because they're the biggest. So I mean, like I don't know any better about going to a mechanic if I don't have one. You just go here, or if same with PT. Like, hey, you just go here. So if Jeff's saying that I do a good job, it's because I did a good job with him. If it was a shit job, he'd tell me, and he would tell all you too.
I'd probably tell you right here, like you're all right, man. I like you a lot, but your shit sucks. But
yeah, and I'm okay with that because it's that's how you grow is by having honest feedback. And it's when Jeff gives feedback, it's oftentimes it's just most of the times I know of it's not mean spirited. It's just like, hey, this is it. And sometimes there's a mismatch in how well the person can tolerate that feedback, but that's not necessarily Jeff's fault. He was being honest with you.
I try and do my best. Sometimes I don't like sugarcoat it as good as I should.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, and believe me, he's told me that my shit sucked before. Like, he'll tell me this stinks in jiu-jitsu. It's like, all right, Like it's always the worst. And everybody who's gone to Integrity, every single person who's been there has been in this position, and we all hate it. But it is what it is. We are the last person that Professor Jeff is looking at before he says, "All right, let's bring it back in and look at this real quick." God damn it! I'm the one who screwed this up. You're like, because I know I'm not the only one that screwed it up, but I'm the last one that he saw, and he was looking at me to see if I was going to jack it up, and yep, I jacked it up. So, damn it. But no, it's you're not doing that because it's like, oh, you guys all suck, and I'm taking tips away from you. It's like, we're going to get this right. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
took
meant to
tips
be
away
mean.
from Alex because couldn't tie his belt.
Poor Alex.
The 2-3 times I was the doctor here, probably the most best results I've gotten ever. Hip, shoulders, whatever the work and homework was.
Yeah, and Jared was a good fit for me. And you know, and I'm not going to talk about Jared's case, but you know, Jared could handle the way I presented things to him. I'm like, dude, if you do what you're supposed to do, you're either going to get better or you're not. And if you do it and we don't get better, at least I know, and then we can change it. If you don't do it, then I've actually fired patients for that. I had a patient come in and he got better. Like his neck pain was a lot better after the session, and I never put my hands on him. I didn't manipulate his neck. I didn't massage anything. I didn't do anything. We had him do repeated movements and a couple other exercises. His neck pain was almost gone. He comes back in 2 weeks later, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not any better." Oh, okay. So what's going on? How are the exercises going? He's like, "Oh, I haven't done them." I go, "Why are you here?" So I fired him. I'm like, don't waste my time. Don't waste your money. Don't what are we doing here? It's just, you know, it's akin to going to a physician. They give you a pill and you don't take it. Like,
They
how
don't
does the
fire you. They
physician
just say, come back again. Give me more money.
how does the physician know what to do and how to make adjustments if you don't give them feedback and don't do what you're supposed to be doing? It's crazy to me. But yeah, I've had that happen. And you know, one thing I do want to make perfectly clear is that everyone who posts all their guru stuff online, PTs, and you know, I'm here and Jeff's singing my praises, Jared's singing my praises, Amanda's been singing my praises, and I appreciate all of it. There is not one single medical professional that makes everybody better. Period. There are people that I don't make better. I try my best, and I will try to get you to the right practitioner if I can't help you, but nobody makes everybody better. That should never be your expectation going in to see any medical practitioner. So just be careful when you see the gurus online and every story they have is like, oh, I had this patient that nobody else got better, and then I saw them for 5 seconds and they got better. All right. Yeah, that happens.
You ever heard of the ring dinger on YouTube?
The what?
The ring dinger.
The ring dinger. That almost sounds like it should be on a site that I shouldn't be going on.
Oh, you have not. YouTube.
Just said no one ever sent the doctor feel good. So I do want to say, so Muhammad and Mustafa McBride are probably two of the most athletic, super athletes. I'm not sure if they're super athletes or they turn themselves into super athletes because I'm not sure how natural it is and how much is really work because I've seen them at the end of their work. Muhammad wasn't a superstar when he was a kid, but he's a superstar now.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think it's hard work. I don't think it's natural genetics. And both of those guys are no BS kind of guys. And they're very faithful to their religion. And they're very knowledgeable about everything because they research everything they look into. And that they both found you the same knowledgeable person and willing to talk with them about their problems is like what makes me just so happy that I know you, like, and sing high praises of you. It's not really like your ability to make everyone better. It's your ability to look at the truth and send people in the right direction if you can't help them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's,
yeah, you sort of follow the truth wherever it goes, and it's hard to do. Very hard to do.
So, like, I have a question that kind of leads into that, and I don't want you to throw your profession under the bus, but
I'm persona non grata in the PT world because I call my profession out constantly. So have at it.
So, like most PTs deal with insurance. So
Hmm.
obviously you need to do so many certain things for insurance and see so many people, and then you have to have insurance people to file paperwork for insurance. Is one of the reasons why you and kind of your peer group, it seems like all the guys that are good PTs that you talk about and we talk about, they're all cash-based PTs. Is that because insurance is such a big problem in the PT world, or is that just because of some other
Insurance does
reason?
make things harder. It does make things harder because you have to jump through hoops to get paid, and there is a large game at play here. Like insurance will just deny 10% of your claims just right off the top, knowing that you can't make a phone call on all of them. So your fee schedules change. They usually go in one direction, and that's down, meaning how much they're going to reimburse you. So it is a problem. But there are a lot of PTs out there that do take insurance and see one patient at a time. So really what it comes down to is how do you size your business? So take you, for example. If you're like, okay, I have 15 members ready to go and I can charge this much for my product, you're not renting a 35,000 square foot building because you can't pay for it. So if you're a PT in Western New York and you know that your reimbursement rates are the lowest in the country, which they are for insurance, or the lowest reimbursement rates in the country is Western New York. Why are you renting such a big building when you know you're only getting this much? So it's real easy to sit there and blame the insurance companies and say they don't pay us enough. They don't do this. They don't do that. But you rented this massive building and you're forcing your therapist to see 4 patients at a time. So if I worked for an insurance company and I came in and saw this person on a hot pack, this person getting shotgun manual therapy, this person riding an exercise bike, and this person over here doing unsupervised exercise in the corner, I'd actually pay PTs less. So if, you know, the reality is there's always external forces, and insurance is one of them that are going to help influence your care. But at the end of the day, you have your own internal autonomy and your own individual agency to take care of it. And you have to do the best job you possibly can. So if you size your business where you have to see 4 patients an hour, that's your fault. It's not the insurance company's fault. That is your fault. So insurance can make it more difficult, but you can make it work. I could probably take insurance in the size building that I'm in with the overhead that I have. I could probably make that work. I don't want to because I hate paperwork. And insurance will triple to quadruple your paperwork. And it's really annoying. I don't really like doing that stuff. But I could probably pull it off and still see 1 patient at a time without much difficulty. So I'm not against insurance. If they just made it a lot easier, it'd be fine. So yeah, the profession likes to blame everybody else and not take care of their own backyard. So if you do shit work, you're going to get paid less. It's just the way it is.
So why PT suck so bad then? Why is it so hard to find a good one? Why isn't there like it's so hard to find word of mouth PTs? Like I talk to people about you and they're like, "Oh, PTs suck." Like everyone has the same experience with
Mm-hmm.
PTs, and
There
like
was
it's
one
hard
thing
to convince them to go to a cash place. Like so, like why are there not more PTs that like you? I don't know. I'm just trying to ask why
yeah,
there's not
no,
more
no.
of you out there.
So I heard an interview one time, and you and I, one of the reasons we click is because we have similar mindsets. We take information. Oh, there goes Ray. He's gone. Ray was getting bored of this. But you and I have similar mindsets. We try to take information from everywhere. You're not just listening to jujitsu people. I'm not just
Yeah.
listening to PT people. We're taking information from everywhere. So I heard Tony Gonzalez, a Hall of Fame tight end. He was on Colin Cowherd's show one time, and Colin Cowherd asked him, what percentage of an NFL locker room is like you, like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning? What percentage is like you, all in all the time? He goes 2%. 2% of an NFL locker room is all in all the time. And he goes, well, what percentage is, bare minimum? He goes, about 65% is bare minimum. Like just does what they need to do. They're competent, but they don't do a thing more than they have to do. And I really thought about that, and I thought every situation I've been in, that number holds basically true. My graduating class in PT, 65% were C's get degrees type people. They're not bad people. They have medical licenses, they're PTs, but they're not doing anything extra. They're not going above and beyond. So why do you think that would translate into the PT world as professionals? And really, that's the problem you run into. I mean, you probably run into the same thing with people you work with, whether it's in a machine shop or any business you've ever worked in. You probably even see the same thing in the jiu-jitsu community, where that number may hold kind of true. There's about 2% that are all in all the time, and 65% that just do what they need to do. And that's
Yeah.
about it. And so how do you change that? You can't. So 65% of PTs out there are just, yeah, I come and I do my work and I see my people, I get paid. That's fine, whatever. They have no intention of getting better. They don't care about getting better. They just want to do their job, go home and hang out with their kids and their husbands and their wives and do whatever. And I guess there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the profession kind of slides in the wrong direction. And then they get mad when I call it out. Well,
I guess
doing bad work.
I don't understand, like, so I understand, like, they're forced to see multiple people at the same time, but no one addresses the body that I've ever worked with like you. Like, I come in and is that because insurance tells you have to do this, like this is the recovery that you have to do, or is it just because they're just, wow, whatever, they're just doing a very bare minimum? That's, I guess, my real question.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are doing bare minimum, and a lot of them get stuck in sort of a rut. So, like if you're cross country skiing, you tend to stay in the same ruts that are already made for you. So, interestingly enough, I was at a continuing education seminar a long time ago, and there was this guy, Dr. Ben Kibler. He does shoulder surgeries in Kentucky. Really fantastic. But he was talking about how most rotator cuff injuries actually start from here down, from the end of the sternum down. Because if your legs aren't working well, if your hips aren't working well, if your spine isn't moving well, you're putting more stress in the shoulder. You're making the shoulder do more work than it's supposed to be doing. And I saw all these PTs and looking around, they're like, and they're like, yeah, we should be treating the whole body. And what do you think all those fuckers did on Monday? They went right back to their clinic and did the exact same thing they were doing. So they know, they just don't change it. They get stuck in a rut. And it's hard to change it when you're seeing 4 patients at the same time. But as I always say, you don't have to work there. Like, you don't have to work there. You don't have to see it. You don't have to do 4 patients at the same time. I stopped doing it. I worked at a place that was high volume. It's not that they're bad people. It's just I chose not to do it. And
they're just in for the money grab, is pretty much like.
It's a job. It's the difference between a job and a career. They're job people, and they'll be job people until they retire. They won't ever transition to career people. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It's just, again, don't complain about your profession. Don't complain about how physicians should like us more, and then don't complain about the general public bad mouthing PT because they're just reporting what they have had done to them.
Yeah, like, it seems like it's just a giant scam because the doctors really recommend your PT. That's what's always happened to me. They're like, well, go to this place or this place. And it's like all on a major network. And those places always suck. And then, like, most normal people don't even know you can go find your own PT. And even more people don't know you should just see a PT on your own, like for preventive maintenance. And like, I don't know how to get the word out. And I don't understand why your profession doesn't get the word. I'm like flabbergasted. Like, I don't understand why you're the only one saying this. This is what I'm why?
I'm not the only one. It's just it's a minor voice, and the PT profession is not well organized like the dental profession is, the medical profession is, the physicians. They're well organized. They have a very strong governing body. We don't. And part of the reason is the governing body doesn't really do much for us, and the governing body doesn't really talk about the things that need to be talked about. I saw this particularly horrible video that it was basically a reading mean tweets PT edition. So these PTs were reading all these bad tweets, and I'm looking at them like, these aren't bad tweets. These are things that actually happen. So like, these people aren't saying anything unfair or unreasonable. They're saying what has happened to them. I was given my sheet of exercises and I had to go stand in the corner and do them. Well,
that's
what are you
my
complaining
experience
about?
Exactly.
Like that, like, oh, I don't need someone to massage my neck. Yeah, and that's what happens. So, they're like, oh, we got to get people to think differently about PT. Well, then we have to present the product differently. And again, it's you can't change the general public, and you can't change the physicians. You can't change the insurance. All you can change is yourself. So that's not a very popular message. So that's why I'm kind of persona non grata about it, about in the PT community. Nobody really likes me in the PT community except the people who do it well. So that's how I kind of know if you're a good practitioner or not. If you like what I'm saying, even if you don't agree exactly with how I'm presenting the message, if you're okay with the message or okay with what I'm saying, then I know you're probably a pretty good practitioner.
I like that.
I mean, if you're, yeah.
Let's make sure that we get some recommendations. If you don't want to see Dr. Krol, get some recommendations from him for like people to see. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to hook you up with people. People are afraid of high prices, so they go to who insurance will pay for.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what they kind of don't understand is that you actually pay more by going to a non-cash based practitioner in most cases. Not every case. Again, you can go to a cash based practitioner and not get better. But usually what happens is they'll go twice a week for 8 weeks because independent health authorized 16 visits. So you're paying a $45 copay, not to mention your time, which is incredibly valuable. Your cash based PTs won't be seeing you that often. So you're going to pay less in the long run in both time and money, but it's hard to get people to understand that.
I equate this to the same way I equate eating. There's certain things that you only have so much of, and time are two of them, right? And you need to take care of your health. And eating healthy and taking care of your body are the only things that are going to give you life satisfaction when you're done working. And you're going to be done working at some point. And if you're not able to do anything to enjoy it, what's the sense of working? And if your life sucks every day because everything hurts and you can't move, like, what's the point of living? Like, why would you even want to live? So if you're going to spend money on something, what can be more important than that? Like going out to the bar, like, and I really don't understand like how people think. And I feel like I'm in such a minority sometimes.
Well, you are, and you know, people like you, people like me are in a situation where we have a activity and exercise lifestyle. It's not negotiable. We don't have to get motivated to do it. You know, like you don't get motivated to go to the gym or exercise or be active. Like you don't. It's just part of your day. It's not negotiable. And that's kind of how I am. I don't have to get like I went and worked out this morning at 7 a.m. I didn't have to do it, but it wasn't negotiable. It wasn't like, oh, I don't want to do it today. I'm not going to do it. And then that goes for like a year, you know? And it's tough because most people don't ever enter that. Most people go through their entire lives as episodic exercisers, where they will exercise for a little while or they'll be active for a little while and then they'll completely drop off the face of the earth on it. And they never reach that position like you and I are in, where it's just part of what we are.
So
yeah, we are in the minority.
Yeah, I woke up early to go to the gym to lift, so I could feel good enough to teach on my feet for like from 11 o'clock to 6 o'clock today. Like, so that whole time I'm competing, I'm wrestling at a high level and doing jujitsu. Like I'm rolling with everybody, and then I do Muay Thai, and then training with pro athletes, and I work out before that just to make sure that like I stay in shape too, because I think aesthetically I should look good as well as be in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, you need to feel good. Again, what's the point of going through your days if you're going to feel like crap all the time? I mean, even if you have medical issues that make it an uphill battle, your responsibility is still to move as much and as best as you can. Like because I have people all the time. They're like, "Oh, I have this condition, I have that condition, I can't do this, I can't do that." You can't do anything. Like you can't do anything. I mean, there's very few people in the world that are in that position where they absolutely cannot do anything. So, take care of your eating habits, take care of your nutrition, take care of your sleep as best you can, and move around. Those are the best things you can do. And then you're giving your physicians and your holistic practitioners and anyone you're choosing to see far more ammunition to work with because you're taking care of your end. You're doing what you can. So now they can say, okay, well, this person's active. This person's got their hydration under control. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now we have a better slate to work with. And yeah, it's an uphill battle. It really is. People like you and I are the minority, for sure.
I want to share something. I think it's kind of personal, but not really. So I was seeing you. I was having, I don't remember if it was for the bicep or something else. My shoulder was like had a lot of pain in my right shoulder. I wasn't able to do like the shoulder press and all kinds of stuff. And um, I really didn't expect you to make my shoulder better, but you did. Like I just expected to be slightly better, but for that whole year, I wasn't able to play catch with Forrest, throw football, like do anything. And like I was honestly more concerned about getting in so I could punch. But like you really truly fixed the joint, and I was able to throw the ball with Forrest and play catch. And man, I wasn't able to do that for like years before that. Like my shoulder's been really bad since I heard it wrestling. You remember, like forever ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked with you and it got better. I'm sure it wasn't even just my shoulder, but man, like the joy that gave me to be able to throw the football at my son is like, if you're not doing that, I don't understand why you're not trying to. Like, I really can't. And if you don't think you can do it, you can do something so you can get better and enjoy the time with your friends and family. It's so important.
Yeah, you only get one body and you can't get a new one, so you better take care of it. And yeah, it's not a hard equation. It's just again, people don't do it. People don't see the value in it. I don't know why. And when people don't, there's nothing I can do to change that. But yeah,
Well,
crazy.
I hope we change people's minds today. And I don't know what else we can do to do that. And I'm so happy to have you back on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been about 3 years. You said, right?
Yeah, 3 years today since
Damn,
the last podcast posted. I can't believe it's been that long.
I know it's crazy. But at least I haven't fallen into the deep blue sea and just you know drifted off. I've still been coming to class.
You were in that deep white sea for a very long time.
Yeah, and that's it's one of the things about being a hobbyist, right? So that was one thing. I'm different from some of your other students in that I know where I'm at and I don't expect to be promoted as fast as other people because I just do it as a hobbyist.
Mhm.
My goals are just I enjoy doing it. I don't care so much about I need to get my next belt, I need to get my next tip. It's nice when you get them, but one of the nice things about you is that I know I earned it.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I can go through the minimum number of classes. You're not going to give me a tip if I haven't earned it. So I like
Well,
that.
and I'm gonna say like when you got that dummy and like you talk about how that tip meant the world to you, but like you definitely earned that, dude. You got so much better when you got the dummy and you started working out with the dummy. Like your momentum or your movement and your transitions on the ground are so much better since you started working with the dummy. Everything is just better. And it's
Yeah.
bad news for everyone that's training.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't
And
until I started working with the dummies and I started doing just a couple different drills, and I was actually able to catch Josh in a triangle one time,
yeah,
and that's
guys,
not easy to do for me.
it surely does not take much to get your body good at jiu-jitsu movements. If I can do it, trust me, you guys can.
Hmm.
Most of you guys are way better athletes than me. Take Dr. Krol's word for it.
Yeah, your base athleticism is your biggest weakness, unfortunately. It really is. It just is. But you've overcome it with durability and incredible cardio and then skill acquisition. So
Yeah, that's important.
yeah.
Like anyone can do this sport. It's not. It really doesn't take a lot. And I had Josh Ketchery on, and we're talking about foundations of jiu-jitsu in the community. And I like to think that I'm a good finger in the jiu-jitsu community, and I have been for a very long time. And it all started with you. You twirled the staff coming down
Throwing
North
that
Crescent,
damn stick and beating each
and
other up in
then
the driveway in the backyard.
yeah, then he got me into karate and punching Dave Ryan. I was like, man, I like this fighting stuff.
There you
And
go.
man, it was pretty crazy.
It all starts somewhere.
Yep. And now that we got into the start of my fighting career, I want to talk about the time that you fought. And I want to end the
Oh my
podcast
goodness.
with the story of the tag team kickboxing match because I told
Yeah.
everybody about this, and I told I was gonna talk to you about it on the podcast, and I'll put it at the very end so people got to watch some or at least scroll all
There
the
you
way
go.
through to get here so I can. I'm not gonna timestamp it. We're gonna say it right at the end.
There you
So I
go.
want you to walk me through your tag team kickboxing match.
Oh man, so it was the combat zone. It was, I believe, 1995, right?
Correct,
Was it October
1995.
1995? So we had just graduated from high school, and I was seven. I think I was 18. Just turned 18 at the time, and Yeah, we were in this tag team kickboxing match. Total Wild West nonsense. I don't know if there was a physician in the house at all. It was at the old Memorial Auditorium. And me and Don Allpower were in this tag team kickboxing match. And it was total WWF, AEW stuff where,
We
like,
got to walk through the locker room, the whole setup.
all right. So, like, do you want me to do with the guy getting schooled?
Yeah, the guy getting schooled.
All
And
right,
he,
fair enough. So we had one locker room with one set of fighters, and then in our locker room with the other set of fighters. All right, it wasn't even split.
No, it was not split.
It
We were
wasn't
all in the
split.
same
That's right. It
locker room.
wasn't split. We were all in the same locker room. Didn't matter who was on what corner. And there was this one guy. He was throwing kicks at this. I believe it was like a bathroom divider.
Yeah.
So Jeff stands up in the middle of this whole thing. And now, mind you, Jeff and I do not look anything like we look now. Like I was still 6'2", but I was about 160 pounds. I was not nearly as built as I am now. Jeff was not nearly as tough and had no cauliflower ear at the time. He points right at him like, that guy's going to get schooled. Which it did come true. That guy did get housed.
He was really bad.
But the rules for my fight with Don changed multiple times. And I think our opponents even changed once or twice.
Yeah, they changed in the locker room. I
the,
wanted to talk about the locker room stuff because they changed your opponents in the locker room. Don Zalpa was like, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, it was a total mess. So like we had no idea who we were fighting. Nobody knew who the rules were. So the last set of rules that we had gotten, Don and I, were that if your opponent got into your corner, your partner on the outside could hit him. That was the last set of rules we got. I don't think the memo reached the other group. So we get out there and, I get into the ring. I throw a side kick at the guy, hit him right in the chest, and like it didn't work at all. Like I was like, "That's gonna be a long day."
There was no weight class or weigh-ins for everyone.
No, God, no. There was no.
So these are Dr. Krol is kicking some guy that's probably like 80 pounds bigger than him.
Yes, it was not great. It was like teenage me kicking Jared. It was not great. So anyway, we get back into my corner. I get the guy into the corner. I circle out. Don hits him because, as far as we knew, those were the rules. Well, the other team didn't like that, and all these guys jumped into the ring. And it was a big melee and a big brawl. So, I'm getting hit. It didn't really hurt, but it was just a big melee and a big brawl. And yeah, that was the end of that match.
Yeah.
So my fight ended with a complete mess. And you were outside with Bill Adams, who was just laughing.
Yeah.
Bill Adams was like, I started my karate career at Bill Adams Martial Arts way back in the day. Bill Adams Ishinryu Karate, and he was just laughing. It was a total shit show.
He had no interest in getting in there at all.
No, God, no. He was like, I'm not getting in there. Fuck that.
I just got my nose broke in my fight, so I'm like looking at like, oh man, do I get in here? Do I not get in here? And then like I don't even know how it got separated. They just stopped hitting you for a minute. Like there was not really security. It was crazy.
No, yeah, it was just like, okay, well, whatever. So yeah, it was a total shit show. Like I said, it was total Wild West stuff. Again, like opponents, like stuff you would never see now. Even in the smaller promotions, you would never see that type of stuff now.
You wouldn't even see this in Russia and all those Russian videos. Well, maybe in Russia.
Maybe in Russia you would. Like outskirts Russia. Yeah, it was this total shit show. I mean, I remember your fight. Yours was a complete bare knuckle MMA match, and you got your nose broken pretty quick, if I remember.
Yeah, right off the jump.
Came over to the corner. You're like, oh man, what am I gonna tell my mom? Because your mom didn't know that you were there. So yeah, it was but then you took the guy down and pounded. I think you pounded him out and then you choked him, right?
I punched him once and he quit.
Oh, I thought you pounded him out and choked him.
No, I went to punch him and then he quit, and then I punched him again and like he quit again, and then the referee said stop. I didn't get to choke him. I was so mad, like he hit me and then he just stopped fighting. He was like, it was a time when people tapped when you got mouth on them. It was a totally different world than it is now. Like people will never understand.
Yeah, it was again total mess. Everybody in the same locker room. Opponents changing, an hour before the fight. Rules changing before the fight. It was like again, you would never see that now.
So whatever happened with your fight? Were you declared the winner, or?
I thought it was like just a no contest. I have no idea.
I don't really remember what happened. Miss Cindy, you're watching. Did they get the other team get disqualified? Well, like what happened? I don't really even remember.
I don't know what Yeah, but I don't know. Like, it didn't matter to me at that point. I mean, it was just such a shit show.
There was no police, there was no security. Dude, I don't even know like how that guy got away with that. Like it's so different now.
I don't even know
That
how
was
it got
never
separated. Like you said, like it just like ended.
There's no commission.
No.
We should tell Don Lilly about this someday. He'd probably love it.
Oh yeah. Again, this is backyard stuff. No, I mean,
Dude, it was
yeah,
so crazy. So that's the Dr. Kroll kickboxing story. So
yeah.
Dr.
There's
Kroll
the
actually has fights, so you better look out for him. He's not a joke.
yeah. I'm not very good, but as I always tell people, I kick hard for a non-fighter.
He is very ready to fight. He's threw down fights in the hallways.
Yep.
There should have been a fight in the locker room when I said that guy was going to get schooled.
There should have. Well, he ended up getting schooled, so it is what it is.
Yeah, he did get beat up.
Yeah.
I made some long-lasting friends from there. Like I've had training partners that I trained with there that I met that night that I still train with today. Well, not anymore, but I train with like up to a brown belt, so it's pretty cool. And that started all the primo stuff and led me to
Yeah,
get
but
my black
you're kind of magnetic in that realm. Like, I mean, people know that you're willing to do whatever, so
belt.
people can be like, "Hey, let's train with Stick." You'd be like, "Okay." Hey, let's train him at. All right. Like you're doing like it's kind of magnetic. People like that about you.
Yeah, whatever. Try
Yeah, it's all
anything 3
good.
or 4 times.
Yep. All right.
So yeah, I can't tell you how thankful I am for your friendship and everything that we have, and hopefully we'll always remain business partners. I know we'll always be friends. So
Yes.
um,
Well, we'll always be connected in some way. You know that.
yeah, I'll always send my people your way, and you always send your people my way. So at least we'll have that. And man, I can't wait. Hopefully we get this vision that we have for a complete health facility accomplished.
Yeah, it'd be nice, but yeah, one step at a time.
Yeah,
As
one
long as
step
we
at a
keep
time.
doing what we're doing, we'll be all right.
All right. We're almost at 2 hours, so I'm gonna end this one right now. Thank you
All right.
everybody for watching. I'm sure it was not that entertaining at parts of it. So make sure you tell everyone to
Oh,
watch
Ray
the
got out of there. Ray was not interested.
Ray's like, I'm done. This is too smart for me.
Ray's
These are
done.
smart people.
Ray's out.
You answered his question about the biceps and you hurt his feelings. He's like, I shouldn't train, huh? Shut it down.
Done. Train. He might have to come in and we might have to roll one of these times.
Yeah, he's like, I'll show you what to do with my broken bicep.
I know he'll smash me into the mat and I'll lose my blue belt.
I'll throw it right out.
Yep.
All
Go
right,
in your
Cindy,
basement, get your white belt.
it was good to see you again. And have a great day, everybody. We're out.
All right.